and welcome to Bits,
the show that munches up a world of dark and dismal fantasies.
And barfs it back at you.
Get your videos going right now because we've got some top cheats for you later in the programme.
On tonight's show, we've got footy action in FA Premier League stars, we're going jungle crazy in Ape Escape, and we're dabbling with voodoo in Shadow Man. But first, here's something dodgy from Japan.
It's not a bird, it's not a plane, and it certainly isn't Superman, but what it is the brand new title from Titus, the people who have been trying to fly Superman onto our N64s for quite some time now. Instead, we have to watch as that PlayStation crew gets a go at Evil Zone, a new 3D fighter that was released yesterday. Now, what's the story with that baby? Well, it's a Japanese fantasy that's marketed around a schoolgirl's knickers.
Eretz Baju roughly translates into Evil Zone, the latest manga-inspired kick-ass offering from the island of the East. When compared with other fighters, it's neither evil nor is it in any zone. What it is a highly simplistic, not easy to control battler with some interesting moves and a whole heck of a lot of culture shock. Well, at least it's in 3D. This genre's not known for its Oscar-contending scriptwriters, so if you're expecting anything other than a variety of blocks and attacks linked together with a plotline gathering the main character, Denvazier, with 9 other dudes and dudettes, well, you're gonna be disappointed. We have the usual contenders, the slapped-around schoolgirl, the James Bond underwear sniffer, the 80s Michael Jackson Beat It video extra, Tank Girl, the Power Ranger, the 10,000-year-old priestess, and the man with the protruding sword. At first glance, not a distinctive lineup. Very similar to Soul Blade, but there are a few things that differentiate Evil Zone from the rest of the anime pack. Normal fighting game guys rely heavily on hand-to-hand combat, kicking, punching, and headbutting, but these are not your average characters. As the William Shatner-style voiceover at the start explains, they are heroes who have been chosen for the purpose of defeating a mighty and evil sorceress. So they better have some mighty fine moves. Happily, they do. As in Psychic Force, they do most of the damage from a distance. Where else can you see characters clone themselves to kick a piece of you outside of the living realm? How often have you seen a pentagram created from tarot cards release the pressure on someone's punk ass? Smokin'. Even more stylish are the camera angles that totally change the damage perspective. You can play the whole game using one move and you'll never see it in the same way. The camera swoops and bobs looking at the defeator or the defeatee. It follows the beams of carnage as they spit out of the penetrator. It dances gracefully in the blade as it jams through computerized flesh. It looks up a little girl's skirt and giggles at her white panties. Tee-hee, hee-hee. Except in training mode, this game has a killer soundtrack. Each character has different tunes. They also have annoying little asides.
The tables have turned in my favor!
But regardless of all this praise and glory, this is a boring game with boring controls. No, not boring controls, crap controls. You use 2 buttons and the D-pad. There's no shoulder buttons, no analog, just attack and block. Your highly specialized fighting technique honed in the Street Fighters and the Tekkens goes totally to waste here. You're reduced to a drooling button basher with no access to technique or tactics. And even worse, the controls are unintuitive. To sidestep, you must push up or down, which causes some thumb traffic when you need to jump, which you do by pressing the up button twice and then the circle button. A bit complex for such a basic move.
You beat 'em up virgins are gonna find the controls a cinch. In fact, this game may even get you hooked. But don't rely too much on them because next time you play a real game like Tekken against a real competitor, you're gonna find yourself at a serious disadvantage. Besides, who wants to spend the first couple of tries at a new game reconfiguring the controls?
Karen, you're too much.
There are a million other fighting games out there. Now, most of them are Japanese. These people love to beat one another up, and they also love white pants. But remember, there are others out there of higher quality that also feature white panties. I'm personally going to be waiting for my Man of Steel because he's got red ones. But Evil Zone, if you want it, is out now for your PlayStation.
Yeah.
You can all breathe a sigh of relief because football's coming home again, and this time it's in the shape of FA Premier League stars. Sorted.
Oh no, it's not another football game from EA Sports, but this time instead of the Canadian-based team that produced the fantastic FIFA 99 stunner, it's the homegrown Guildford-based EA Sports UK studios that will have you dribbling all over your joypad. The game's release is set to coincide with the beginning of the football season. Bits has been fortunate enough to get a glimpse of this very early code. and I'm pleased to say that apart from a few bugs, it is looking very good indeed. You lucky punters will get the chance to man your favourite Premier team, and if you're not satisfied with the skills your team offers, you'll be able to improve the performances no problem. Like all football games, you can play a season, but as you progress, check the user records and you'll notice that you've been awarded stars according to your achievements. Top feature. These stars can then be used to up the individual attributes of players, such as their speed, passing skills, stamina, and so on. Once the season has started, you'll be able to customise your own team, including the name, logo, and names of the players. Not only do you get to play the teams from arguably the world's current greatest league, but the first game of your season will have you playing in the European Cup qualifier. Maybe a little too close for comfort for some of you at this precise time. Should you win the game, you'll get the chance to progress, and there will be more competitions that become available as the season advances.
Some might say we don't need another football game, but the people seem to want it. And I must say that this one looks particularly good. It's got some great camera angles. You can look down from above on a bird's eye view, and then you can zoom right in, up close to your top players to check out their footwork.
The game also has the bonus of being able to play up to 4 players on the multi-tap. There's the obligatory friendly option as well, just so you can get unfriendly with your mates. This footy sim certainly has some nice touches, most of which you'll find in other games, but here they're all brought together into the one title, and the stars feature, it has to be said, is top.
However, I will reserve judgment on this one until I've played the final version, but I'm definitely looking forward to having a go. After all, it is the beautiful game. Premier League Stars will be out for your PC and PlayStation on August 13th.
Max Payne is a cop, and he's a pretty pissed off cop. But you would be too if one day you came home and found your entire family was slaughtered by drug-addled psychopaths. So to combat his emotional problems, he goes undercover, joins the mafia, and starts to fight from within against Valkyr, said drug that's rampaging through New York City. Everything's okay for a while, and then all of a sudden his best friend is killed. Well, his best friend happened to be his boss. Now, he's running from the law like Harrison Ford ran from Tommy Lee, but like our boy Harry, he has morality up to the eyeballs. He's going to continue his quest to stop the rampage of the evil drug, unless, of course, he gets the shit kicked out of him.
The makers of Max Payne have certainly been around the block a couple of times with Hong Kong film dude John Woo. They're making a point to up the cinematics, up the style, up the character moves, and up the movie references. I don't believe any of it's tongue-in-cheek. Must he launch himself sideways so often? The game does boast loads of detail, down to Max's snakeskin shirt, the bullet holes ripping through it, and the bad guy's cigarette. There's a reason everyone's waiting for this game. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wait a bit longer than we should have, probably because of the announcement of its simultaneous release on PC and Dreamcast. Expect it late next year.
There are kiddies games, games for grown-ups, and kiddies games grown-ups can just not stop playing. And now Sony is launching a brand new game for PlayStation that looks set to leap across the age gaps once again. It's called Ape Escape. The whole story revolves around 2 main characters, Jake and Spike. Their mission is to travel through time to catch some rebellious monkeys. Under the lead of King Monkey Spectre, these crazy mammals have managed to escape from a zoo. Not only that, but they've broken into a secret laboratory. There they steal intelligence-enhancing helmets and activate a time machine. Their ultimate goal is to change history so that they can rule the world. But we can't have that, so young Jake and Spike are on the hunt. This takes them through 8 eras and across 25 levels in a bid to save mankind. At the start, they don't have much weaponry. All they have is a shiny sword and a butterfly net. On the way, they get to use many different kinds of gadgets. all of them are managed by the revolutionary use of analog-only controls.
Well done.
In terms of gameplay, Ape Escape feels very natural and easy to handle. The angles are reduced to a spinning camera, similar to Spyro. The speedy 3D control is very addictive too, so beware, this game might even get you more hooked than Crash Bandy. Facts of Fun out on PlayStation tomorrow.
And now, as promised, here are some top cheats for this week. And if you haven't already set your video to record, do it now!
And after the break, join us in the dark adventure as Shadow Man.
Simon and Guy are the creators and developers of this massive, epic game that's coming out on all 3 platforms. It's called Shadow Man, and it's pretty damn scary. And I want to ask the initial basic question. What is Shadow Man all about? Who is this guy, Mike Leroy, and what does he have to do?
Mike has been taken by a voodoo sorceress who has placed this voodoo mask called the Mask of Shadows into his chest, which gives him all of these incredible powers, but also kills him in the result and then turns him into an immortal. And basically, by day, he is a regular guy. By night, he's the Shadow Man. And one of his powers is the ability to cross over into the world of the dead, called Deadside.
In the game, you actually get a bunch of cards that look like tarot cards that sort of tell you the story in a sort of a very sort of metaphysical, abstruse way. I mean, you're not going to sort of suss it immediately. And it tells about the Dark Souls, and the Dark Souls have been sort of placed in Deadside, the world of the dead, many millennia ago. And it's your job as Shadow Man to go in there and collect the Dark Souls before the bad guys. On the surface, it's an action game, you know, and it's a horror game. But we've used that subtext to give us the sort of structure, basically.
You guys have been influenced by a heck of a lot of really horrible films, haven't you?
Yes, everything from Jacob's Ladder.
Apocalypse Now, which isn't horrible, but there are horrible bits
in it.
Seven,
Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs, definitely. So yeah, it's got, but you know, in so much as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre has this sort of psychological subtext where you're sort of you're expecting a lot of sort of gratuitous violence. You get the violence, but it's much more the perception of it.
You really have sort of an open-ended game. You can really go in any direction, in any way.
A lot of games kill it for me that they effectively beat me by turning around and going, look, you're not going to get through this door unless you beat this boss, and by that point I start to lose interest. So one of the things that what we tried to do was to give you that sort of multiplicity of experiences throughout all the locations. Each location has got a different style of gameplay, from traditional platform, shoot 'em up. There's the horror stalker sort of feel and everything like that.
Serial killers.
Serial killers and everything. And also give you this multiplicity of routes, so you can almost tell the story yourself.
This game has been compared often to games like Turok and Super Mario Brothers. Would you say that Shadow Man is Super Mario Brothers for the psychotic set?
Well, it's actually it's sort of it was also compared to Zelda, and it was actually described as Zelda's evil twin. Which I think it probably is much more that than anything else.
Yeah. You have developed this game for all 3 platforms, simultaneous release.
Yes.
None of this faffing about with a couple years later. Nintendo gets it. What have the challenges been here?
It's the same game on all three formats. There is no real difference. Well, certainly no difference as far as the actual game is concerned on all 3 formats.
It's coming out on 3 platforms at the end of the month. I just want to know one thing. How long do you think it's going to take to finish? Because it took me 2 hours to get to the first level and a half last night.
70 hours. We estimate 70 hours to get absolutely everything in the game.
So this is a sit down and quit your job kind of game then?
Yes.
There's something very sexy about a boy with a pistol in his pocket, which is great news because there's going to be loads of shooting games over the next few months. One of these games features a very big boy with a very large pistol indeed. He's made completely of metal and he gets launched into space. The name of the game is a Mega Boost, and no, it isn't a vitamin drink.
Expectations were high for this game as it is brought to you by Polyphony Digital, the Gran Turismo people. Some of you may even recognise this rock combo playing now. But a Mega Boost is a massive breakaway as they leave road holding behind and step into the unexplored territory of deep space gaming. Not a lot of people know this, but Omega is the last letter in the Greek alphabet, and you play the last hope of saving humanity from an intelligent virus that has taken over the world and all its computer networks. A legion of mechanical renegades are bent on destroying all human life unless you can steer Omega Boost to victory. You would expect a full blastathon from a game with such a full-on title. And of course there is tons of power under your arse when you consider that you're sitting in the head of a massive robot. But does it all live up to the promise of the title? Although the graphics look pretty smart, the gameplay feels pretty lame. Don't let that sexy big gun put you off. You'll feel like you're using it well. But let's face it, it's not that difficult. In fact, the giant mech warrior has 3 shooters in his arsenal. The Vulcan cannon, a standard homing gun, the homing missiles, which are very handy indeed, and the Viper boost effect that you pick up in later levels. With that one, you can ram your opponents into eternity. Nice. All pretty impressive visually when sending fire and sparks up into the dark universe, but that's about it. Your key to success, however, has to be your flying ability. So I recommend that if you're going to play this game, you try a bit of flight practice first in training mode. I have to admit this was pretty tricky. Every time you clear a zone, you're given a score for your flying capabilities, and if you want to get ahead, you're going to have to be a top pilot with grade A marks. Once you get going, however, a space flight is disappointingly dull. A few toggles left and right will have you avoiding even the most lead-heavy onslaughts. Although the learning curve is pretty steep, the gameplay gets very samey once you've got the hang of it. Simply lock onto your opponents, blast away, and then avoid the return fire. Repeat, repeat, and repeat until dead. Very dull indeed.
Although the action is beautifully fluid, the gameplay is linear and empty. If I were you, I'd save your money for better shooters and space games due out later this year. Watch out as well for some top titles from Dreamcast out in September. Meanwhile, Omega Boost is available for your PlayStation this month.
We've seen games about killing, games about driving, games about exploring the dark worlds of mystery and adventure. So it's little wonder that someone came up with a game all about sheep. Sheep is what you could call a herd them up with a very original but simple gameplay. You are the shepherd, and your goal is to get all your sheep through danger and out of a maze-like labyrinth. The concept of the basic gameplay stays the same through all 16 levels, but as you progress, the environments become more surreal. For example, you have to guide your sheep out of a nightclub. The FMV looks very smooth, but once in action, the game looks rather cheap. Graphically, Sheep looks like a strategy game still stuck in puberty. But if you can live with the shortcomings and are desperate to get a steer on animals with attitude, this game could be for you. Sheep is out for PlayStation and PC in September.
What do you get when you combine the most popular horror game title known to man and vile, vicious reptilian beasties that were generated out of a mad scientist warped skull? Why, Dino Crisis, of course. And Shinto Mikami, the guy who created and produced Resident Evils 1 and 2 and is a self-proclaimed Jurassic Park head, well, he's the guy behind this one. It's about to do exactly what the T-Rex did to San Diego in the Lost World on a small island in the middle of the Pacific. It's going to be released in Japan today, and this is what it looks like.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Total Annihilation in its original form ripped the treads off of all of the real-time strategy games by totally revamping the basic maneuvers of the genre. No longer did you have to fiddle with little things, extraneous humdrum things like people and their needs. No, TA allowed you hours, 11 plus per day, of strategy glory. Basically, since then, it's been mercilessly copied by everyone, but not for the plotline. The developers are out to change all that with the release of Total Annihilation Kingdoms.
The first one was set in a nuclear wasteland. The end of the world was nigh. Two factions, good and bad, fought and killed and overpowered each other. But in its inception, the developers never thought of a plotline. They just came up with the premise. The emails of fans cried for a reason to totally annihilate. The designers complied, and what we have here is something resembling King Arthur's Nightfall exploits with 48 missions and a lot more color. The mechanical difference is virtually nil. Kingdoms uses the original as its basis, but tells a tale of a family split apart by greed and land-loving. The gorgeous 3D rendering of your little people shows every droplet of blood that is spilled. You take the role of one of 4 families, playing a different one per mission, but are not tied to any allegiance. Instead of relying on machines to kick butt, this time around it's a game of wits, magic, and manpower. They've added extra dimensions, so this king of all multiplayers actually plays a pretty excellent single game as well. All around, this baby looks to add to an already perfect game. TA Kingdoms is out now.
Question marks have arisen about the PlayStation 2's Emotion Engine. Rumor has it that the chip that will change the future is too expensive to be mass-produced. So what the folks at Sony are supposed to be doing is taking the console, chopping it in half, adding a couple of bits of extra hardware so that the processing power is reduced by 50%. Well, the folks in the know and the folks we've talked to say that this is a load of utter crap. The console is set to be unveiled at the Tokyo Game Show in September. And speaking of unveiling, quick, run out and get yourself a reservation for a Dreamcast, because at HMV, for 30 quid, you can ensure that you get one of these, a UK version of your very own Sega New Machine. Ooh, pretty. Yes, but I'm taking this one home with me so I can play some games, so I can update you, watching viewers, about how exactly this compares with other consoles.
Competition time!
Here's your chance to become one of 5 lucky winners to win this bumper prize.
Including the sexy S&M pack from Bloody Roar 2.
And a copy of the game.
And a copy of Street Fighter Alpha 3.
And a copy of Bomberman.
And 2 cheat books for PlayStation and Nintendo.
All you have to do is answer this very easy question.
In Tekken, there are 2 sisters, Nina and Anna. What is their family name?
Please email your answer to bitsforlater@aol.com. See ya!